Hey Ottawa, this is your Monday Market Snapshot for the Ottawa Real Estate Market for Monday, May 27th, 2024. My name is Annalie Rice and I'm a realtor here in Ottawa, Ontario, and every week I bring you the details of what is going on in the Ottawa real estate market. Since we're close to the end of the month, I have included a couple extra charts to explain maybe what trends we're seeing so far, and we will continue our discussion about inventory and how it's much different from year to year. Let's go. Okay, so first off, we'll look citywide. Our number of active listings continues to climb. We can see not quite as much as past weeks, but we're up over almost at 2,650 active listings across the city this week. The growth was across property types, mostly in the detached, a little bit in the townhomes and condos. Sales this week were down by about almost 50. That was kind of expected because we did have a long weekend last weekend, and it was down across property types, though townhomes just by one. This chart is the visual breakdown of the inventory. So you can see that we continue to climb, although it does look like it is leveling off a little bit. That might have been just because we are in the week just past the long weekend. But our inventory continues to climb, and the sales this week dropped because of the long weekend. You can see that the number of conditionally sold properties, that's the orange line, is higher, a fair chunk higher than what our sales were this week. So I do expect that next week our sales will be a bit higher. The little dashed lines that I have there show us this week compared to the same week last year. And you can see the two horizontal lines there show you what the difference of the inventory levels are. So last year we had 1,535 active properties listed for sale, and that was just the start of the inventory climbing last year. So it had been very steady and very low throughout the full spring, through January through mid-May there. So that was the beginning of the climb of inventory last year. And yet the opposite this year, where we were climbing all the way since basically March. We're at 73% higher inventory than we had last year at this time. And our sales for the month of May so far, that's 4 weeks of May sales, we're at 13% lower sales this year than last year. Okay, so let's look at the new listings. We had 510 properties that were listed this week. 129% of those properties were relisted, and 381 of them were new to the market. And you can see that, and then you can also see the sales there, that we had a bit of a drop off there. The interesting thing is that this was the first week when the ratio wasn't kind of at that 20% relist and 80% new listings. This week it jumped up to 25% relisted properties and 75% new properties. So we'll have to see whether or not that was a bit of a blip just because of the long weekend, if more new listings are coming out this week and will get captured next week. Perhaps after the long weekend, a lot of properties were relisted and stuff. Maybe it was just a bit of a blip, but we'll have to see. It definitely looks like our trend of the number of relisted properties, that's the gray line, is climbing. But whether or not that percentage is going to stay higher or if it's going to drop back down to sort of that 20/80, then we'll have to see. Okay, so when we look at sales, we had 248 sales this week. 20% of those sales happened with no conditions, and that was a little bit of a jump up this week after a little bump down last week. And we had 35% of the sales this week were at or above asking price. And I'll get into those details on the next slide. We also look at the number of sales within 7 days. So we had 17% of the sales were properties that had been on the market for 7 days or less. That represented 43 properties. And when we're just looking at those 7 days or less on the market sales, 53% of those were with no conditions and 72 were at or above asking price. The second thing is the properties that have sold within 30 days of being on the market, and that was 175 of the sales, 71% of the sales this week, and 19% of those were with no conditions and 45% at or above asking. And it's one of those weird weeks where the percentage of property selling with no conditions overall actually was higher than those selling within the 30 days. Every once in a while it happens where a bunch of really long on the market properties that all of a sudden sell with no conditions, and this was one of the weeks. Okay, so this slide just sort of will break out a little bit of the information on at or above asking. So 87 homes this week that were sold at or above the asking price. But at or above asking price can mean a lot of different things. So 52 of those, which was 60% of the sales, sold at asking or up to 1% over asking price. So very minor, either just asking price or just slightly above. 26 of those properties, which was 30%, sold between 1 and 5% above the asking price. And then 9 homes, which was 10%, sold for more than 5% of the asking price. The highest percentage over was 18% over, and it also happened to be the same property that had the highest dollar value over. It was $100,000 over. In this case, it was a home that was listed at $550,000 and it sold for $650,000. And I did look at the details of that home, just as I like to see what types of places are selling so high above asking price. And it was a complete fixer-upper, but a detached huge lot in Blackburn Hamlet, a 4-bedroom, double garage, beautiful location, nice lot. And it was a total fixer-upper. So they clearly listed low with the intention of trying to get lots of interest and selling above asking. Okay, so let's zoom in and we'll see what's happening in the different areas of the city. Okay, so first off, central urban region, that's inside the Greenbelt. The active listings climbed across property types, but mostly in the detached market. And the sales were down across property types pretty evenly. In Canada and Stittsville, we had an actual slight increase in the number of detached properties, and note that 201 detached properties for sale in Canada and Stittsville. That's a lot. And then steady for townhomes, sitting just over 100, and condos were down slightly. And sales were down across the property types, except for townhomes held steady. In Barrhaven and Riverside South, the active inventory climbed across property types, and you can see there's only 132 detached homes on the market, so it's a lot lower, like 70 less than Canada and Stittsville. And then the sales were down across property types. And in Orleans, we have a large number of detached homes. We're at 177. That's the smallest of the 3 different markets there, and it climbed by 18. So properties on the market climbed across property types, and sales were down for detached and up slightly for towns and condos. And I did want to make another comment there. Condos. There's more condos for sale in Orleans at 61 than there are townhomes. So I would say that the townhome market is pretty tight in Orleans right now comparatively, and there's a lot of condos on the market right now. Okay, so these charts give you all the details of the how many are listed across the different regions, the average list price, the active cumulative days on market, that's CDOM. So how long the ones that are sitting on the market, what's the average time on the market currently, the number of properties that are conditionally sold with those prices, and the number of properties that sold in the last week with those average prices. And then the sold cumulative days on market. So typically you'll see that the cumulative days on market for the sales is below the active, and that's because properties that are overpriced and sitting pull up that average. And here's the same thing for townhomes. You see that the days on market, both for the active and the sold, tend to be a lot lower, just because the townhome market is a little bit quicker than for detached or condos. And finally, we have the condo data. Okay, so these 3 charts show us the close price, or basically the sale price, to the original list price ratio. And I was really quite surprised to see that in all 3 property types that those ratios actually climbed a little bit, meaning that homes were selling a little bit closer to the original asking price in the end. So bit of a surprise. I'll have to see whether or not that adjusts downward or differently when we have the full May data, but I will look into that a little bit more. The other thing that I wanted to look at was the average days to sell so far for May. There, it's the last bar, and you can see that they're pretty steady. Like not a lot has changed in the in the market for how long it's taking, slight increases perhaps in the townhomes, and detached just pretty much the same. Condos actually a little bit quicker, which is a bit surprising, but all pretty good. The problem is that there's so much inventory, and the homes that aren't selling, those are getting longer on the market. Okay, so that's my update for this week. Next week, I will have the full details for May, being the end of the month, will come this week. And so lots of charts and the average sale prices and the number of sales, which I expect is going to be down. The question is whether or not our inventory, continued high inventory, is going to start affecting the prices. And we'll see that a little bit more when I have the month-end data. It's not really worth it to look at it week to week because of the variances of which properties are selling. But I wouldn't be surprised that we have a little bit of a drop in the average sale price, perhaps this month, just because of the high inventory levels we've seen. I hope you all have a fantastic week and are staying dry with this very rainy Monday that we're seeing. And I will see you next week. Bye.